Millions of people decorate cakes as a hobby. To move beyond that and turn your hobby into a profession, follow these 10 cake decorating tips. Hi, I'm Emily, and I started decorating cakes for fun. Fast forward 12 years, and I've taught over 25,000 students with my online courses, and over 500,000 people follow my cake decorating on social media. But how do you get from this to this? Here are my 10 tips. My first and most important cake decorating tip is don't wait. We're our own biggest critics, and it's easy to convince ourselves that our cakes aren't good enough for other people. But who doesn't like free cake? Practice on cakes for friends and family, and when you start selling your cakes, just make sure you're setting expectations by having a portfolio of your work on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, so customers know what to expect when they buy from you. An aesthetically important cake decorating tip is to make your cake layers the same height. You can do this with a scale, weighing the cake batter when you divide it between different pans so that each cake layer will be the same weight, which means they'll all be the same height, which looks so much better when you cut into the cake than having all of the layers different thicknesses. If you don't have a scale, use a measuring cup or an ice cream scoop and count the same number of scoops into each pan. Tip number 3, get your colours right. Make white by adding a tiny bit of violet to buttercream that has a yellow tinge to make a brighter white. Look at the difference in this buttercream before and after adding violet. For dark colours, use less gel than you need to make a lighter shade, and then microwave it for 5 to 10 seconds. It will melt and get darker. When this comes back to room temperature, and you can pop it into the freezer to do that faster, you'll have a much darker shade without using so much gel that you can taste it. Tip number 4, invest in a good turntable. They're about $30 on Amazon. The spin on a plastic turntable is quite wobbly, and the vibrations will cause grooves or dents in your frosting. Notice the lines of texture up and down this cake, vertically, that my cake comb leaves with the wobbly spin on this plastic turntable, compared to the smooth frosting of these cakes on a metal turntable. If you want to get serious about cake decorating and want to get your frosting really smooth, choose a metal turntable. The spin is much smoother, and once you've practiced and perfected your technique for smooth frosting, your results will be much better with a metal turntable. One of the most underrated cake decorating tips is to use the freezer or fridge. Chill cakes after frosting before adding any decorations so that the frosting doesn't bulge and undo all that hard work you put into getting it smooth. After decorating, keep the cake in the fridge to prevent drooping and sagging. Take it out of the fridge 2 to 4 hours before serving so that the cake and frosting come to room temperature, when it will taste the best. I have a tutorial on 10 freezer hacks to make cake decorating easier, and the link is in the top of the screen and in the video description. You won't like this next tip. Practice, 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 and practice smooth frosting in particular. This is the foundation for almost every cake design, and once you've mastered your technique, every cake will look more professional. If you're struggling with smooth frosting, get loads of free tips and tricks and videos in this section of my YouTube channel. And avoid mistakes like using buttercream that's too stiff, which will pull off crumbs and chunks of cake and will cause big air pockets in your frosting. Watch my tutorials on 7 secrets for smooth frosting on cakes, and also 15 frosting mistakes you're making and how to fix them. Tip number 7. Hi, I'm Emily. I share lots of free information on YouTube, but give me 1 minute to tell you why my cake school is so useful. On it, you'll find my courses and memberships, and we'll come back to the memberships, but down here you'll find the individual courses. The basics of cake to learn how to bake and put together a cake, the basics of buttercream to master making, colouring, flavouring, storing and using buttercream, and all of these other courses to learn different cake decorating skills and techniques. Now the 3 membership options. Choose my Cake Club membership, which includes the master courses you just saw and all of my mini courses, which teach specific cake designs like these. Each mini course has a list of the tools and materials you'll need to make that cake, and then there are 4 steps for each cake, showing how to make it with all of the details filmed close up so you can see exactly what you need to know from start to finish. Now here's the next membership option. Take your cake decorating skills from beginner to professional by progressing through 3 layers in my Layer Up program, where you'll learn hundreds of skills and techniques and ways to improve your cake business, like scheduling and taking custom cake orders, making cakes in bulk, and transporting and serving cakes and making cake videos for social media. Instead of learning everything over 12 years like I have, you can learn it all in 3 to 6 months with this program. Then there's the All You Can Cake membership, which includes access to everything on my cake school, and you can try this one free for 7 days. I'm that confident you'll love it. To find out more, go to britishgirlbakes.com or click the link up at the top of the screen or in the video description. Tip number 8. Don't serve your cakes on an ugly cake board. Definitely choose a grease-proof board so you don't get greasy butter stains on the board, and ideally choose one without these corrugated cardboard edges. Foam core cake boards like these aren't a lot more expensive and they have nicer white edges. Or use a cake drum, or transfer the cake to a cake stand by chilling it in the fridge for a few hours and then sliding an offset spatula underneath it to loosen it from the board, and then pick it up and attach it to a cake stand with a dot of fresh buttercream. If your cake board has become really messy as you're frosting and decorating your cake, transfer your cake from this one to a new cake board, using the same method. Tip number 9. Consider making your cakes taller. This leaves more space on the sides for decorations, and it's here that they'll be the most visible. What do you see when a cake is sitting on a dessert table, or while everyone's singing happy birthday or blowing out candles? The side of the cake. The easiest way to make a cake taller is to use a recipe for a wider cake. For example, this is my 3-layer 8-inch perfect chocolate cake recipe, baked into 4 6-inch pans. But when you make a tall cake for someone, tell them how to serve it. Or even better, show them a video. I have a few saved in my Instagram highlights that you can send to them. For tall cakes, it's much easier to cut a cake like this than cutting traditional wedge-shaped slices. And people who love frosting can choose an edge piece, while people who don't like as much sweetness can choose a middle piece. Finally, tip number 10 is to choose professional packaging, even if this is homemade. Instead of using cake caddies or just handing cakes out on cake boards, choose cake boxes, which are only a few dollars each when you buy 10 or 20 at a time on Amazon, and these make your cakes look so much better. Here's the homemade hack. If your cake is too tall for the box and you can't fit the lid on, cut diagonal slits in 2 opposite sides of the lid, which will raise the box a few inches, so that you can still fit the lid on the cake box and your packaging still looks professional. I hope you've seen some ideas you'd like to try. Visit my cake school on britishgirlbakes.com to learn hundreds more cake decorating techniques and designs, and try them out risk-free with my 7-day free trial of my all-you-can-cake membership, which gives you access to everything on my cake school. See you there!